Let's see if this works. Do you see it? Well, that's news to me. Can you hear me? Anything like that? Any issues with that? All right, so we're just doing this to sort of test things out to see how if I can stream vertically with the webcam at the same time. I'm kind of interested in seeing if I can make things like that happen more often and see what it looks like on my end. I know I could do it from the phone, and that's the easiest thing to do at all times. But you know, you got to build it while you fly it, so we can see what we can see what we like, see what we don't like. Um, Probably should do it with a better camera. Definitely do it with a better camera. I think I'll jump out and try to see what it might look like on my phone. I think that might be a little better look for me. But I'm probably worrying too much about that. Listen, if you do, stumble upon this, give it a quick like, consider subscribing to the channel. So we just finished like a scheduled live, and I want to do those at least once a week. And some right now it's been Sundays. I know it's football season, but a lot of sometimes when you're trying something and it's just practice, right? It just comes up being practice, 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 practice. Until it's time for that, you're on stage and you have to now show up and you want to be ready when that time comes. You never get there if you don't show up and practice. So this is what essentially a lot of those end up being practice. So for right now, even for this webcam, I don't know how it ended up being so zoomed in. Okay, that makes me feel a lot better. Way better. That was way, 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 way too close. But okay, I can stomach, I can do this. So practice. This is one of the things that you just gotta show up, you gotta do again and again and again and again and again. Um Lagging about for me. If you know, oh, does it seem any better? Again, we're practicing this and see what it looks like for you guys. If there's things that I may have to change in terms of settings, this is all Greek to me. I'm trying to do it off my webcam where it still feels a little more put together than sort of just doing it on the phone. But we can redirect and do that pretty pretty easily. So you guys just let me know what it's like for you. Just give me the feedback, the back and forth in the chat, what it looks like for you. If you like this versus just doing it vertically live on the phone, I can switch gears and do that pretty quickly. This would probably be an easier thing to do going forward. Um, but again, feedback, name of the game, and it's how we get better. But again, just because it is practice and is the algorithm, hit that like, hit the heart button, hit the like button, just so YouTube knows that it's real. For you, those new that checking out the channel, well, for first of all, you day one supporters, shout out to you. Just Mrsochimaeze was the first subscriber to the channel. One of those people that subtly just told me like, yo, we expect you to do stuff like this. This is what are you waiting for? You've been yapping to me all this time. Might as well yap to the rest of the world. Anyone that wants to, tune in and listen. So, you always have a special place right there. So any feedback, again, much appreciated. So one of the topics that we covered on the actual live, and we go through a stream of topics, I'm having different ideas, different back and forths. And Travaris, you've been great, just that feedback, and great as the main moderator of the channel. We want to create a streamlined sort of platform, a streamlined sort of show. I want it to be a show. I want you to come and sort of just get entertained while you do the thing, while you sit here and listen. I think that is sort of fun. It feels good. It feels like you can get something back and you feel like, hey, I'm tuning into something that I have this expectation of what it's going to be like. I think that's dope. I think that's dope just because those are things that I kind of like to watch myself. You see like a narrative, a plot, and how we go from A to B. Part of going from A to B again is going to be practice. Is going to be trying new things, experimental things, screwing things up, and then trying it again, and then trying it again, and then trying it again, and trying it again. So here we are, trying it again. But this is something like through the week I wanted to, if I could find time to make this happen. But there was a lot going on, and there was a little toddler involved that I had to go play with. That was super important. But one of the things we talked about, we just finished talking about, is just sort of begging and how that has become integral into how people date today, where people sort of have the handout, this expectation that you're supposed to do for them, make them feel good via spend. And in terms of lifestyle, if you can't sort of support that on your own, how are you putting that on someone else where it's their responsibility to make sure that you're good in that sort of way? I think that's the height of folly. That's it's sort of idiotic. And before we continue, one of the points of this chat, of this type of vertical stream, what I want to do is have it's easy to do it back and forth. There's not the production, there's not the scenes of the slides that I've got to sort of go through. And there is a more realness to this where I'm not have to think in my head what comes next, and I get why people might have a team doing some of these things, or a team when you make a show. It's so much easier. Just you're supposed to do your part. You let everyone else, sounds, lights, they do all that other stuff. They tell you when to go, and you go, you do your thing. You're good at that, you do your thing. But here I can actually go back and forth. That there's just a chat, there's no extra things to go up and down. And I gotta admit, there's a bit of jealousy sometimes when I'm doing my research, and research, i.e., means I'm listening, I'm looking at other people's lives. I came across a woman. She was just sleeping. She was literally just sleeping, and she had like 300 people in the chat. 300 people, she's just sleeping, and they all converse with each other. Like, I jump in there, I'm looking around, virtually looking around. Like, are we serious? And then as a a creator, then you go to the page and you want to look up stats, you want to look at, all right, how many subscribers does she have, how many what's the interaction on this page? Why do I feel bad about myself when I just see this happening? It's the silliest thing to when comparison is thief of joy, and that'll constantly do that to you. So my strategy has been thus far for YouTube is simply to show up. Is to show up and have the work ready to do, or be willing to do the work and say, okay, this is what needs to get done. Let me do it. And if the algorithm says I'm going to put this in front of the right eyes, then it puts it in front of the right eyes, but it can never put it in front of the right eyes if you were never there doing the work. So again, we're going to experiment. We're going to see what works. We're going to essentially trust the process and decide what it is. in that sense, again, we're talking about just begging and how that becomes the regular thing in dating and how men are looking at it because they're not the ones that are available to beg. When men do it, it seems disgusting. When you have that guy right now making rounds that's homeless with the medical conditions, most people are looking saying this is ain't it. Chief, this is not it. Because we have this expectation that men are supposed to move this way and do these things. And when they don't, we know what to do with them. We know what to say. We know how to push. We know how to pull. We know how to say essentially, yuck, that's not for us. We get that. We see it. We don't seem to acknowledge that when it's happening to women that it's like, yo, this is straight up begging. This is what it is. This is disgusting. That's how I look at it. I could be wrong. I could be in league of my own, like the movie, and this is just what it is. But in that regard, we'll put that aside. One other things that I was talking about with myself and jotting down some notes is like, are we too weak for relationships today? Like, is it something that we know now we don't have we don't have enough wherewithal, we don't have enough stick to itiveness, we don't have any skin in the game where we can deal with the wins and the losses and when stuff hurts, when it doesn't hurt. Do we have that ability to get hurt and then kind of stick and move again? And let me deal with my trauma, let me keep it going. Because what you just see is so many people, and we all have had the same conversations about when you tried something or this went wrong in the past, so you don't do it anymore. And it's usually with a man, it's usually with a woman. And we have a litany of things that we say about it to them. They did X, Y, and Z, they're this, they're terrible. We do that all the time. We rarely say, this was the part I played in it, or we rarely say, yes, that person was awful. That person was a legit narcissist. Damage was done, and I took time to heal, and I actually mean it. I actually mean it. And now I can go back out there and do good, do well. No, what we have is I've been hurt once or twice. That's it. Defensive walls are up, and I'll never be hurt again. And this is why these men, this all women, all this is why we have that sort of all or nothing Sith type of language. All of you suck. All of you done something wrong to me. Therefore, fuck all you guys. Right? That's the silliest thing. When you look how wide the world is, well, my friend, he just got recently. It was last week. That's the last week to today. He got engaged, and he's super excited. And that relationship started just the way all the other relationships starts. We were in Australia, and he met her, and he was just enamored, and they just kept talking for years, making the effort to make things happen, and then boom, here you are. Could that have been possible if both of them were sitting there and saying, "I'm kind of really jaded. It doesn't work. It sucks." And to focus on the men, how we get in that same sort of bubble, that same sort of sense, is we only got so many real loves in us. We only got so many real loves in us. I was thinking about this as I was driving home from the airport today, and thinking about it in the sense that when do you miss old relationships? Do you miss the person, or do you miss who you used to be? Vulnerable, open, like open to being happy. Do you miss that person that you experienced it with? Have you tied that emotion with that person? Or do you actually legitimately miss that person? I reckon is you miss the who you used to be that was available to do these things, that was available to feel. Right now, you feel as if, you know what, that hurts so much. I'm going to protect myself. So I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to keep it to myself. I'm going to just keep the guard up. When you're real, right? When you're real, when you're absolutely real, is that working? Is that working? Is the new you better than who you were? Yeah, Jasmine, I think is both sounds good, right? Both sound safe, but realistically, you're looking at that person that you felt these things with, and the relationship ended because of real reasons, real real reasons, unforgivable things, or things that say this is enough to fracture. This is a boundary. This is about whatever. We both did things that indicate that we were not each other's top priority. These things ended for a real reason, and we are better not together. It makes sense why we're not together. Let's just hold that to be true. I think we really miss who we were with that person. Maybe a little naive, right? We had an idea like, "Man, this could be great. I'm happy, I'm excited, jovial." The me then feels like a softer me than the me now. And part of that distance, and what happens when you go back and forth, it's not just the relationship that changes you, life changes you. You get older, life, more responsibilities are heaped on your shoulder. You have aging parents, you have aging children. Your roles at work get more complex or less complex because you lost the job. Real, life happens. You gain weight, right? There's a medical thing. All these things eat away at that sometimes that naivety that you had before, where it was just easier. Life felt smoother. When we look back to our lives, I always think about high school lives. Dawson's Creek came out around that time. And what I used to love about Dawson's Creek, and Dawson's Creek, if you look at the things I watch now, when I do watch TV versus now, they're nothing alike. There's nothing, I'm not watching anything that's sappy like that. If there's not an explosion, if people aren't getting kicked in the head, I don't care about it. I don't care to watch it. But back then, I liked it because everything mattered. Everything was intense. Every emotional, every look, every kiss, everything mattered. Now we're so jaded because maybe all the corn and stuff we watch, all the experiences that we've had. Now everything's like, nah, 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 right? Is there's a lot of you can take it or leave a lot of these things. You just keep it moving. You're just like whatever, it's fine. So maybe there's part of you that along the transition of life, especially in a society that's is the one that we've created, it saps a lot from you. It takes a lot from you. It says this is what you owe me. This is your due, and I'm gonna take it whether or not you're ready to pay it. And there's no credit, there's no credit score. It takes it and it takes a piece of you. What's left scabs over. It's never smooth skin like, the one you were born with, the one that you felt more innocent with. So what you're left with is this person that is safer emotionally, but safer because you lack more emotions to damage. So in that way, I think it's weakness. I think we're weak for that. I think we're weak for not being able to be vulnerable, to be open to being hurt because you can get to a higher high that way. It's a risk, right? For those people that have ridden motorcycles or people that have jumped out of planes and that rush, that exhilaration that you get, you only get part of that because there's a risk at the end, at the that you're simultaneously experiencing it. It's a risk. And that makes it exciting. Back then, we used to look at that risk and say, it's well worth it. The excitement I feel when I see you, when I touch you, it's worth it. I love it. I can't get enough of it. And when I'm not here, I think about returning here and it makes me excited. And I want that. I want that more than anything else. And then you get hurt by that. And then you try it again. But you can't get to that higher high because you're sort of a different person. And then you get hurt by the next thing and then the next thing. And then now you're not even chasing the high anymore like an addict. You're just there. You're like, "Oh, I guess." Like, I guess. So, that's how I look at it, some of the things, like, not that I say, is it a weaker are we weaker because we know this? We can conceptualize this. It's not rocket science, or rocket surgery that I'm putting in here. We can conceptualize this, but it's easier when we say, "Nah, I can't really try this." Um, it's just is it weaker? Is it different? Yeah. Do we have the ability, right? Like observing complex things that are multi-dimensional past the third dimensional. It's different, right? It's nuanced. I think it's weaker when we don't do any of that work to look at it and say, how am I different? How can I deal with these things? It's easier when we're just like, okay, it scabs over and it tells us that this road is impassable. You can't go this way any longer. So find another way. And there's only so many paths to the summit, with summit being sort of our heart. So when we go back and our job is to go and cut open these scars. right? We when you cut them open, when you cut up the scab, and you sort of get this chance to smooth over that path. You get a chance to make this path available for someone to tread once again. That's what the work is. But we confuse the work, right? And this is falling into the other topic I put up there. They're falling into the work of like therapy. Yeah, it's just like rehab and surgery. The more rehab, the more the more serious you take your rehab, the quicker you're going to recover, the quicker you're going to be viable again, the quicker you're going to be useful again to the rest of the world. When you ignore it and you barely give it any sort of thought, yeah, you end up in the same place, right? Or you re-injure it. People like that had shoulder replacements, hip replacements, and they just get more and more stagnant, or more or less, or even funnier, the people that get the limb lengthening surgery so they can go from 5'8" to 6 feet, and how they're awkward, and some men don't do anything outside of that, and they lose the complete mobility of their legs. Now you look goofy, and the worst thing you could look like outside of being short is goofy. Never want to be goofy. Okay? People can't forgive goofy. People can deal with short people, despite what the internet says. People deal with short people all the time. Goofy, you can't bring goofy around. Uh I felt felt like, yeah, so you're at the motorcycle again, but not this. Yeah. I listen, Jazz, I gave up my motorcycle because every season I got back on it, I would get more and more reckless, more and more reckless. White line, when I first got on, it was like a white line at 15 miles per hour because, New York and traffic. In each progressive season, it would add 10, 15 miles per hour. Now I'm white lining at 40 miles per hour. Traffic is a standstill. White lining, right down the middle. Last season I got on, I remember just blazing down streets. Like I memorized every single pothole. I know this is not possible, but I'm doing it. I'm moving like that. And then I was like, you're reckless. I say, I don't even know you'll make it the end of the season. So an opportunity came where my brother had a mechanic that would take care of his car for him. You show up with these, odd hours and never something would go wrong. So he saw my bike and it was a pretty 1,000 cc beast, R1. He was like, man, are you selling that? This is one of the times the universe opens up. I said, you want that? He said, yeah, how much? I said, you let me know when you're ready. Come pick it up. His eyes were wide. He was like, what? I said, yeah, you've done right by my brother. Right? You've done right by my brother. That's enough for me. Never heard about the bike again. Never even checked, yo, what's going on? But every now and then I'll see something, someone on a bike just going by, and I'm like, that feeling is still there. Just the same thing, even when we're scarred over, that feeling, that desire for that vulnerability that takes a relationship to that high is still there. We still want that. We just forget that we have to smooth over the road and do some of the work to get that again. We just want to feel good, right? Like Monsters Ball. I don't remember anything about that movie. What was it about? Just that scene. If you know, you know. You should know. Just that scene. Um, yeah, rehab strengthens us, but also trains us to function optimally for longevity. Yes, yes. Which again, probably how we should have been moving in the beginning, right? Theoretically, that's probably how we should have been moving with the idea. It's funny when you consider how we just get out of high school and everyone's like, hey, you played pretend with some relationships, but some of these that may actually stand the test of time, they may actually work for you. So maybe you can do these things with them or not. It's up to you. I don't care. But now you're an adult. And now you get to do all the adult things we told you you shouldn't do that were naughty and fun. And you just thrust into all that. And then now someone is thrusting into you or doing the thrusting. And we're just like, we do nothing to say, here, this is how you deal with any type of heartbreak. This is how you make these things work. This is how you evaluate who's going to be a bum, who's not going to be the guy. And then what we're left with is this sort of mess where we're trying to figure these things out for ourselves. And when you listen and you have conversations with the people and the people's people, and you say, yeah, some people are out here hustling it like a game. People are looking at, in college, looking at new athletes, freshman athletes, and doing scouting reports and saying this guy could go here, this guy could go pro, guy can do X, Y, and Z. I might want to be in on this. Trying to tie their horse to that cart, and then eventually, statistically, you bet they're on the wrong horse. Now you got a baby by this guy, and he's a bum, and you bet on the wrong horse. But this is sort of the high level stakes game that's happening when some people do these things. No one is telling us how can we no longer be weakened by each unsuccessful successive relationship that we've had. We just look at it and say, I hope I get better. I hope I get better. We're supposed to work out. You only need one to work well. What are we seeing? Statistically, most of them don't work out. So what happens? We get older, we get wiser, but no one says that part of us get more jaded. And in that sense, what I'm thinking about is we get a little weaker. We get a little bit of inability to deal with these things, deal with this hurt, deal with this trauma. So what's left? Now we're on here on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, social media, cursing at each other. Talking about none of us ain't shit. That just becomes a norm. That becomes a norm. We say this is dating. We're so concerned about the pool, and everyone says, "How about we all take a moment to start cleaning up around us?" By cleaning around us, I mean us. You clean up yourself for that person. We say this what people do in marriages that are successful. I'll take care of me for you. You take care of yourself for me. We should just start adopting that and making sure we're better humans for the next potential partner. I think when you're better in that sense, you can identify. You can easily start identifying, right? You do it now, right? For the two of you in the chat, you do it now. When you're properly healed, you can identify when someone is talking to you through trauma. You can identify it. You can see it. You can say, "Oh, I see where this is. I see what's animating this." Oh, you're upset and you're listing all the things that. Yeah. Do you just miss me? Is that what this is? Because you're making these small things that we know are small into these big things. Do you just miss me? And it's harder for people that have gone through a lot of this hurt and pain and worked themselves through it to now look at people stumble inarticulately, ineffectively, trying to gaslight you into feeling something. Say, yeah, I remember when that used to work. I remember when I would fall for those things. Now I look at it and say, I feel for you. I feel for you now. I wish you were on this side with me. But that's a journey that you're going to have to take on your own. I can't do it with you. So you know what it's like when you healed on some things. You know when that you've gone back, took care of that scab properly, put your Neosporin on it, put your cocoa butter on it, make sure it's actually smooth this time. Now you can see it. Now you look and say, ah man, I wish you could do better. I wish I could support you in the way you think you need me to support you. A lot of us want someone there so we can rag on them, so we can feel bad about our lives with them, onto them. They are now the butt of the joke. They are the ones responsible for our suffering. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. When that person is actually saying, "Oh, this is what's happening here," I'm good. I'm good. I'm just gonna detach with love. I can say all the mean things about you in the group chat with my siblings, but you'll never hear it. I'll never be purposely rude to you, even when you've given me lane to do so. But that's just me and how I was raised. People do not seem to have that compunction and are more than fine with destroying you and your property. So again, I'm talking to you guys. You guys are fine. I'm not worried about you two. But that's my point. I think it stems from that weakness, and especially in men, it becomes very prominent when we get physically violent. We physically want to do harm. That's when it's almost the most obvious when you see stuff like that, when men are getting aggressive with you. That's when it's problematic. Man, I even asked you guys how the levels. Can you hear me well? Because I don't know if this mic thing is doing it well. So just give me a thumbs up if you. I mean, okay, thank you. Because I was 30 minutes of talking and no one can hear me. So like again, these are things I was thinking about. I was gonna make. No, I did actually make a video about that, and I just have to actually do the work and load those things properly. Um, we can put that aside. But also, again, about practicing here and trying to see how we can get more people in these lives outside of you guys that have been consistent supporters of me, and thank you for that. From the bottom of my resuscitating heart, who is currently working on its own scabs. Also, someone find a way to merchandise that, right? To start selling merch on the channel. And I know I try to remind myself that the success of the channel, one, I need to be patient. That the success when it does happen is actually happening. But this has been a constant in my life. I'm constantly thinking about how to supercharge things and do more so I can get more results, the results of where I want it to be, versus understanding that it's a time dependent thing and I can't rush that part of the process. While the cake is baking, there's other stuff we can do, other avenues we can explore, other things that we can get good at. And part of that is always going to be this exchange. I think social media becomes that exchange when someone adopts the moniker of content creator or influencer. Part of you give to the people and you take in return. While you get their attention and their likes and their sometimes adoration or sometimes they hate, the part of you open up part of your life to them. There should be that exchange. I want to take more control over that exchange and say, how can I enrich your life? If I can enrich your life, I can hold more of your attention. And now it doesn't feel like I'm stealing it. Like I'm inflaming you and saying, I want you to feel bad. That way you'll hate comment, you rage comment. No, I want you to feel like there's something I've been wondering. I'm curious of. I would like your point of view on this. I would like to know what you feel about this. Or as a man who maybe I respect, what do you think about these things? As a man that I see can actually communicate, intelligently, emotionally, who's not just running behind a unga bunga, me bigger than you, me better than you. So, well, how, for my part, how you do that, you just show up, right? You show up, create the content, create the avenues, and if people want to take that, they take that. Um, one of the things that I realized this week, one of the questions came up when someone was saying about one of the posts. They're like, "Well, why post this?" Because people are getting like upset. You see them in the comments. Part of that is someone not understanding how the algorithm works. You post stuff and YouTube decides this is what I'm going to post. This is what I'm going to push in front of more people. I've got very little control over that. But when topics come my way where I go sifting through the trash for topics, I'm going to put stuff out there. I'm going to see what people feel like, what people interpret, what they like, what they, what's important to them, what matters to them, what's on their heart. So sometimes when you get people that are upset about a topic, there's a reason they're upset. We've become so used to ignoring, especially when men are upset about something. For for the gender that's the most violent, we've seemed very comfortable ignoring their emotional plight until right. It seems very silly to me. So when men are commenting about stuff and like, yes, this is why we feel like this. Sometimes you hear some of the other comments against that are just kind of trying to make light of it or making it seem like it's unimportant. No, YouTube is mainly male space in terms of just viewership, in terms of who's here, who shows up. That's a given. Right? There's other platforms that skew different ways, but here is there. Here is here. That's how they are. So when I always like to pay attention when people are paying attention, when the algorithm says, put this in front, this is what they care about. There's a reason that is. It's unfortunate a lot of those times it stems from them feeling hurt. When that video about hearing black women say just call for like the eradication of black men, we understand how silly that is, how stupid, how that won't ever really work. You just can't get rid of them, right? You just and asking you asking a white man to do something like this. They're just like, no, we understand that this is probably just a super small, I wouldn't even call it minority. This is a super small one off of people saying something like this. I don't think most black women think like this. I don't think my mother thinks like this. I don't think my sister thinks like this. I don't think, the three of you listening think like that right now. But when people are latching onto that and using that as the opportunity to have their sort of voices heard, that's how I first takes up. You want your voice heard. You want people to acknowledge what you're saying, and you want to be acknowledged. Now, some people, yes, they will say stuff in order to get the attention because they simply they want to argue back and forth with you. And most of the time, I find myself crafting a reply and then stopping, saying, "What are you doing?" You can't, the very first thing I said on this channel to myself, it's like I'm not beefing. I'm not beefing with anyone. Right? I'm not putting out that type of energy. I'm not putting out and that inflammatory. I'm not calling people bitches, hoes. I'm not doing any of that. One, my mom might watch the channel, and we don't want to have a 3-hour conversation where she tells me about how I've gone wrong from her teachings. I don't want to have that conversation. It's too long. 3 hours of getting chewed out by your mom. Everyone has that experience, and they don't. No one wants to sign up for that. Secondly, I don't think it moves the needle in conversation. When people want just that interaction, and internet's full of people that want to troll you because they want to go back and forth with you, just leave it as that. Say, all right, great, congratulations, feel better about yourself. When people go to your Amazon page and purposely will leave a 1-star review for your book, or make an 11-hour, a 10.5-hour commentary on your book on YouTube. Okay, all right. I hope you get whatever you need out of that. I, that's how I look at it. So I'm not going to be there going back and forth with you. I'm just going to say, all right. But if you've got something constructive to say, or you want to relate about your own personal experience, I always want to have those conversations. I always want to be part of that. I think those are enriching. Those are the things that color your life, that let you color in the margins, color outside the margins. Those things are interesting to me. Beefing with people, I'm not beefing with you. I'm not doing that. I'm not. Right? And some people need that. And those people, I wish you the best. Right? I wish you the best. You can probably find another channel where you can get someone, a creator, to go back and forth with you. I'm not going to do it. There's so many projects, so many things mulling in my mind that I want to get off. I want to do. I don't have the time or the wherewithal to do it. And then I've got too many people in my corner that's going to look at me and say, "You're better than that." But when you create a space and then people interact with it and people have a lot to say about it, that's important. That matters. There's something important there. Sometimes people are feeling like they're unheard, that they don't have a voice. And here you create a space where someone say, "Yes, hear me. This is what I did. This is what happened to me. This is important. I wish someone would listen." We've all felt that way. We've all been there where we felt, not that I need someone to come and save me, but could someone just acknowledge that this is real, that this has happened to me. That is what I think, a lot of what happens with a lot of people, what gives them that back and forth, why they want to be in there arguing and going back and forth. You just want to be heard. You want to be seen. Some of you I see. Some of you get seen and get replies by other people. Other people have had excellent conversations, excellent back and forth. And I wish the channel could be strictly about that at all times. I mean, I wish I could go from 3,000 subscribers to 30,000 overnight. But part of that is simply a process. If you create something of value, I think people will come. That is the mantra. That is the idea. That's why I keep showing up. That's why I keep doing more of the work. That's why I want this to be a more interactive space where we can have an actual back and forth, and try not to get sort of disillusioned when it's not exactly where you want it to be, where you envision it to be, without you doing any of the legwork. When you look at big creators, you look at these people that are big. It's the same way when I was writing a book. I'm comparing myself to people that have honed the craft. There's a lot of things I need to dial in. There's a lot of changes, a lot of iterations I would go through with this channel, and it has to start somewhere. It has to start where you are. Right now, I've shot off of a camera that unfortunately, she died, and she's on her refurbished or repaired replacements on this way. And then I'm using a webcam, but I've got other cameras I want to use. Then one overheats when you do it too long. Now I need some longevity. So I know where this place will end up theoretically, but that comes with doing the work. That comes with showing up. And that comes with an ability to say, let's decide where this is going to go together. I don't want this to be a channel where it simply feels like, just beating up on women. I want a place where we say, no, there's a nuanced conversation going on here. And it's hard sometimes when people simply see when you critique something, you think it's bashing. And that's one of the things I always find myself ready to defend myself and say, you know what? I can't change your mind or something like that. But I think if you want bashing, you can definitely find it. You can definitely find it on the internet. You can find it. You won't have to look that hard. There's so many other creators where that's the standard MO to go forth. I just tend to remember I got a sister. I got a whole mom. I know wonderful women in my life that have enriched my life and made me better for the just knowing them. So come out here and bashing, no. But I'll be critical. I'll be critical of men and women. I think anyone that knows me IRL, see, I'm a cool kid. Anyone knows me IRL will know I'll have the conversation with you. I'll joke around. I can do that, but I also tell you, yeah, you messed up here. Or what I'm trying to do for this year is sort of have that radical accountability. If you call me out on something, say, hey, I think you messed up here. I don't want to debate you. I don't want to argue with you when you are true. I want to be able to say, hey, yeah, you're right. I work on that. Period. That's it. Full stop. No, you said this, and then I said this, and then this. And I don't do that back and forth with you. I say, oh, you're right. You got a good point. I did not realize that. Or I was not thinking about this and that did hurt you. I'm sorry for that. Quick, quick. And that takes, I think that starts with you being radically accountable for yourself most of the time. Before you show up, before I show up to YouTube and say, hey, what do you think about this video? Can you push it? I wish it was that simple. Right. But just the same way being radically accountable to yourself is not simple. But when you make mistakes, when you don't take these things, when you take other people for granted, you think they'll always be there. You're not pouring into these people that are important to you around you. You can be able to be called out. When someone comes and says, hey, what's going on with this? You can be able to say, no, it's because of this. Full stop. You stand on that. And I think it makes for a more enriching and almost like I feel more solid in my convictions and what I'm doing. Try it out. Give it 6 months. See if it works. See if it doesn't work, then I'll abandon it and I'll go back to just straight line of people. See how that works instead. But so, like I said, the point of this again is to try new things and try these things out and see how they work again, and not to get discouraged in the beginning how things are slow to take off. Right. I would love to have 4,000 people in here. We've got anywhere from 2 to 1 to 4. But this is how things get. This is how it start. You learn about these things and like I said, I want to have the back and forth. I want to see what's important to you guys, what matters to you guys, and then we can create something based on that, based off of that, where now you can see the value, you can see this is worth showing up to again and again. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to show up first and foremost again and again and see what happens with that. So again, thank you for the stream. After the stream, right now I've got to actually work on some videos so we can keep the streak going. For that, I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.